Alright, welcome back to Fitch Painting Repairs Garage. We're continuing on the 59 Cushman. We got the clutch removed out of this thing. So, it's been a little bit of a learning process. We're trying to figure out exactly what this machine is. I believe I have it down to a 1959 Cushman Super Eagle. And that's based on the body paneling, the seat design, the tank design, front fender, and how everything looks on the bike. So I believe this is a Super Eagle. Right now what we're trying to do is identify the clutch. This has got a 2-speed transmission in it. Everything I'm finding on YouTube is not the 2-speed transmission type, either the Iron Eagle or the Silver Eagle. And they're different style clutches. So this is what we got. This is the clutch pack that came out of this thing. I've already disassembled it, so it's easy to pull apart. Let me set the camera down real quick. It'd help if I actually did this correctly. Alright. We'll edit all that. Alright. Alright, that's the clutch pack. So I've already done it. So I just got to press in on the springs a little bit and all the bolts come out. Nut lock washer. There's 3 of them on this particular one. It's a little bit crusty, but everything looks fairly good on it. The disc is a little bit. Alright, so we got the 3 nuts out. I had to, when I was on the bike, I had popped it using a pulley, a gear puller. Alright, so this is the weighted disc. See how hard it is to pull off there? That should come off fairly easy. So we're gonna have to clean this up. That should move real easy on that. Doesn't help I've got that messed up thumb I'm trying to use. There we go. Alright. So these are the weights. They sit on like that. And when the machine is spinning at a certain RPM, these weights push in on the disc plate. And that's how this works. So as this spins, these spin out. You know, when the motor's cranking this thing around at a high RPM, these push out like this. And they push in on these tabs on this thing, and it squeezes the clutch together. And then that way it creates friction against that and spins the pulley back here. Alright, so that's, oops, my shim washers are in pretty bad shape, and one's not matching, so it looks like somebody had to replace one at one time and they didn't match it. So that could be the whole problem right there. It's just not working correctly. We got 3 springs. Alright. Now, I don't know. I do believe I have to take off these bolts here. And then the pulley comes off. And then you can remove that. And then all this comes as an assembly. So I believe that's how this assembly works. So we have to take these 3 off to pull this off, and that way we're going to clean that. And so that's where we're at. So it's not 100% disassembled yet, but take a look here. We have the needle bearings in there, so you want to check them needle bearings. These are pretty dirty, so we're going to have to clean them. But they look pretty good. They're all straight and in line. They're not like crooked or anything like that, worn. If they get worn, there's going to be slop in them. So I can take them, I can turn them by hand. They're a little crusty, but it was turning by hand on the machine. So we're going to clean all that. We'll pack that with grease before we put it all back together, but we're going to clean all this mating surface here off. We're going to clean all this, and we're going to clean both sides of this. All right, but I believe the way this works is you have to drill out these rivets, and then you can separate this material, this disc material. It's sandwiched over a steel plate, so there's two discs, one on the front, one on the back, and then a metal plate in the center, and then it's riveted together. I'm having trouble finding what I need. This one has got a little tiny crack. I don't know if you can see right there on that rivet, goes across the rivet. So, and there's a little bit of lip right there. So there's like a metal flange inside here, and so that lip's coming up just a little bit. So this disc might be worn. It seems to be sufficient thickness. We'll have to measure everything, and we're gonna go ahead and clean everything up, true all the surfaces. So look how dirty and glazed that is. That's super bad. So, and then we're going to clean all this up. Bushings look really good, so I'm not worried about the bushings. These all work. They move, but they're dirty. And so we're going to clean everything out. Springs are pretty stiff still. Nothing super squishy. So we'll measure everything. But I do believe what the problem was, and the reason we went into the clutch was we've got the motor running, you put it in gear, you accelerate, and she starts to take off, but then she's just slipping. The RPMs are raising up now on the engine, but you're not going anywhere, and everything's moving, but it's just slipping. So it's just not grabbing hard enough. And I believe what was happening is, see, the whole thing is this thing right here works on centrifugal force, right? And so what happens is it can't push because it's binding up. All right, and so normally you have the springs under here on that, and that goes down on top like this, right? And so it pushes these two pieces together, right? So that's how it all works. So that goes down, sits on top of that, and then it's supposed to push it in and out. Alright? So, and it locks it. Spring pressure against that, right there. Something's not right here. Spring pressure forces it together. We're gonna have to figure this out. I don't know if something's missing or what, but we're trying to find a diagram for it. What's keeping that from pushing? Alright, so when that's on the machine, it goes in that far. Alright, so that doesn't seem to hold on anything. Well, we're taking this apart. We're going to look at it and see what the deal is. But apparently, spring pressure is what holds this all together. Tension. Oh, I got it. Yeah. Alright, yeah, so it holds it up here. And then spring tension holds this one away. So yeah, once you got all that together, so you put this down and the bolts pull this up like this. Alright. And so you have You have a spring, springs, springs, and then the plate goes on. And then I believe the shim goes on. No, can't be. That can't be right. Alright, we're at a stopping point. We're going to have to figure that out and find out exactly how the shims work on it. The shims go on this side of the pressure plate or on this side. They might go right there. Never rely absolutely on how it comes apart. Yes, pay attention to when you take things apart and how they go together. Yeah, I believe what happens is this goes together like this. Then the shim goes on. Now, these two, if you look, have two different size holes. See how those are different. Somebody lost one and replaced it with this. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to make our own. See how that one fits real tight? That could be binding and keeping this from moving. Alright, and then this goes down over top. So gotta kind of hold these in position. Line up the three things, the three studs. See how hard that goes on there? That should slip down a lot easier. It's working a lot easier than it was when I first started. And then you got a washer and a nut. And the way you start it, push it down slightly to compress the springs. Give it a couple turns so you're not just on one thread. And then you do all three. So I'm not going to do all three because I got to pull it back apart to clean it. So what I did on the machine to get it off was I took these off. What I done was I had took the center nut off, and then I got a gear puller. I had one out. What did I do with it? I might have put it away. I put it in the wrong. So you got the crankshaft that comes up through the center, and then this part goes in the little hole in the center, and then grab a hold of it, all the way around, line it up. Alright, and then tighten it down so it's got a little snug torque on it, right? You're not cranking down on this thing real hard. You're turning it until you got a little bit of pull on it, right? Just a little bit. And then you take a hammer, whack it a couple times. You're not hitting it hard, man. You're just whacking it lightly. And then it shows putting a bar in behind and prying if you have to. I didn't have to. A couple little dead blows. Bam. Well, I actually used a ball peen to whack. You don't want to, you're not going monkey hard on it. You know, some people, they get a brass filler to go between this and the crankshaft to protect the crankshaft so you're not mushrooming it. If this is really stuck, you're going to want to take that precaution. But it wasn't really stuck too bad, and I was able to knock it loose, and the woodruff key remained in place. So I haven't pulled it out. I haven't cleaned up the shaft yet, but the woodruff key, when you put it back together, make sure that is in. Make sure it's level, so you're not feeling it above the above the raised surface, so that way it's not catching when you put it on. And you line up the tab, that keyway right there, with that on that when you slide it on. Fairly simple, fairly easy assembly. So, but you see how it's not coming out, right? All right, and then the way it works is this is tightened down to a prescribed amount of clearance from the back plate to the friction plate, and you should have a certain amount of clearance, and then that gives you, when it's at idle, it allows this to slip and turn, right? And that way it's not creeping. When you're sitting there at idle, the bike will stay still and idle. You can leave it on a kickstand, it won't roll off on you. Well, what happens is when you rev up the engine, if it's in gear, this one you got a gear on it. It's a 2-speed transmission. You actually manually put it in gear. It's got a foot clutch pedal. So what happens is when you step on that foot pedal, it activates an arm, which then pushes on a throwout bearing, which is this mechanism right here. This is the throwout bearing, and there's a big old bearing inside there, ball bearings, and there's 3 pegs, 3 holes in there. You line up the 3 holes, and this goes in there like that. And then you have the arm. On this particular model, there's this really awkward cover, and it's mounted to a hinged arm, and it sits like this, and the pulley arm right here, it connects right here through up in the pin, and when you step on the pedal, it pulls this, right? And when it pulls it, that little part right there, this is like an arm, it's just a fancy looking box that covers it, so it looks prettier. But basically that arm is, when it pulls on the lever down here, it pushes in right here and forces this away from the friction plate. It's odd. I don't know. Pushes that, which is bolted to the, oh man, this is weird. I don't know if this is assembled correctly or not. Alright, well, we're going to look into it some more. Stay tuned. Alright, back on the project. Fitch Painting Repairs Project Fitch Painting Repairs Garage. Got the clutch completely disassembled now. Not completely, because we didn't separate the discs, which we have over here. We got the needle bearings. So that pulley sits on there. Those was 4 bolts we had to pull out. I just put a little penetrating oil on them, and she popped right off the flange. Fits right on that. This goes on here, but this goes here like this. This goes in, and then it goes over this, and then the pulley sits on top and holds it all in place. So that's how it's assembled. Alright, that's all we needed. Just to update that real quick on what we got. We got the rest of it pulled apart. So we're going to degrease, deglaze, true that, we're gonna degrease, clean, repack that bearing. That's your throwout bearing. We're going to degrease, deglaze, derust, declutter, deburr, clean this piece up. That's where the clutch disc rides, and that one's pretty, you see, pretty glazed. So this is the pulley, back side of the pulley. We're going to get it all cleaned up. Corrosion prevention on all the hardware. This is this. We're going to, the weighted pulley piece that goes on the front. We're going to go ahead and clean, degrease, deglaze, check that bushing out. Everything looks good. This is the upper plate or the outer plate. We're going to do the same. Degrease, deglaze, clean it for corrosion. Everything looks decent. These are the plates, the clutch friction plates. Everything seems decent enough. We're going to measure it. We're going to put it all back to, we're going to, degrease it, deglaze it, clean it. There's that crack I was telling everybody about right there. All right. But I think hopefully the clutch discs are good, because this is the part that I seem to be having an issue finding for the 2-speed transmission. I'm finding videos online, but it's the other types of clutches. This is, I can't find any videos, so anybody's interested, I'm going to try to do a little more in depth on it. This one is that Cushman Eagle. I believe it's a Super Eagle. It's a 2-speed transmission setup on this one. So you have a transmission right here, so that pulley has the gear on it, not the other way around. So this pulley gear setup on this, on the other ones, is on the back side of the clutch. That's the pulley here to a transfer to the rear chain. This one's set up different. So you got your engine. It's connected to a transmission that has a pulley with a sprocket and a chain that goes to the rear wheel. Right here is the adjustment rod for loosening the slack. Spin these back, and you could tip the transmission forward. I had to, what did I release? I had to release down in here. I don't know if you guys can see down in there. That's the top of the transmission. There was a bar I had to release, and we were able to, there we go, tip this forward, push it forward to get the slack, to get the belt off. So the belt normally comes around. I just got it tucked back in there out of the way. Comes around the pulley up here. Alright, and so the clutch spins that. So we're going to get everything cleaned, put back together, and then adjusted, try to get the tension and all that. Right now I'm looking for the specs on the free play on the clutch and how much room you have from the back disc to that. So we're going to measure, put all that back together. I do believe we're going to end up needing new spacers. As you can see, there's the difference. There's 1, 2, and then there's that oddball one. Looks like somebody manufactured a spacer, so they should have manufactured 3 spacers instead of just the 1. So we're probably going to have to buy a new set of those, or find a set, make a set. Springs might be bad, so we might end up having to replace the springs. We'll check into that. We're going to measure it. They seem fine and stiff enough. There's no breaks. There's no deterioration too bad in them. They're just a little crusty. So hopefully it's just a combination of being crusty, rusty, not being used, glazed over, greasy, possibly incorrect shim, and it was just hanging up, and it was causing it to slip really bad, wouldn't gauge. So it very well could have just been out of adjustment and just needed the tension on the pedal and whatnot set. So we're going to go through, we're going to try to find all the specs on it. Right now I'm having some issues. Dennis Carpenter, I guess, is the company that makes a lot of aftermarket. I've been on, I'm not found what I need for the 2-speed transmission clutch. And I believe what I'm missing, what they don't have is this, but I believe they might have the plates. So I should be able to remove the rivets. You see here, they're removable rivets. So you pop them rivets and this comes right apart. So you got one rivet there holding the back one on, and then a rivet there holding that one on. So you have a total of 8 rivets holding it on. So you should get 8 in a set to replace it. So 4 from one direction, 4 from the other direction, then you ping them over and round them off like that. And that's how they hold them together. So I should be able to get new plates if I need them, but they seem to be right thickness. It doesn't seem wonky. There's a little bit of a lip there and a little bit of a lip there, but everything seems to go together and touch like it's supposed to. So hopefully we'll get everything all cleaned up, put back together, greased like it's supposed to be, everything lubed, everything adjusted, tensions. We'll fire the bike up again and we'll test it. We've got some issues with a flat front tire. It's got a bad front tire on it, so we're going to end up having to replace it. We're going to recommend replacing both front and rear on this machine. But a bare minimum right now, just to test it, I need to do something with the front wheel. So it's leaking really badly. You put air in it, it's just blowing right out. It's not the valve stem, but it is coming out. Probably the inner tube's got a hole in it. So what I might end up doing is just putting a can of Fix-It-Flat in it for now. The tire is pretty well dry rotted, so it does need to be replaced. So maybe we'll put some green slime or some a can of Fix-It-Flat in it to solve the problem, just so that we can do a low-speed test on the transmission and check, make sure that the transmission and the clutch are working. But if it doesn't work, most likely what I'm going to end up having to do is replace the friction discs on it, these right here, tension springs, and these spacers. So, and everything else should be cleaned up. Everything else is look good. This is just a push-in bushing. Everything looks good on it. Everything else looks good. Studs are good. Everything looks tight, solid, not bent. Just a little bit dirty. So we're going to clean everything, degrease everything, remove the crust, deglaze the disc friction, the steel plates. We're gonna get that all done, cleaned up, trued. Everything looks good. Nothing looks bad, damaged, or anything like that. The only thing that I can see is this crack right there on that friction plate, and so I guess it might be a common situation, seeing as how you have to, you know, buck a rivet. So I don't have all the right tools, but I can make the tool I need to buck that and make it look good like that. So that comes with Navy training. I was an aircraft structural mechanic, went through A school in the Navy, worked on aircraft in the fleet, did some time overseas, got some sea experience, but mostly in that we just did inspections, and primary job was keep hydraulic fluid in it. So anyways, so we're going to go through this, we're going to clean it. Stay tuned. Alright, welcome back to the garage. We're going to go ahead and assemble the clutch. We've got it all cleaned. This is the clutch out of the 1959 Cushman. Alright, this is the back plate that goes on. This is the clutch. This is the pulley side. It goes down through. Take the pulley. They're both the same side. Attach that. Alright, I'm going to line up the holes, turn the pulley until we line up the holes here. Got 4 little bolts. So we're just trying to pinpoint exactly what machine we've got. We've been looking Dennis Carpenter is a provider of parts. They don't seem to have what I need, actually. I think what it is I have is a Cushman Super Eagle. And this bike has a 2-speed transmission on it. And so the other ones that I'm finding online are how to rebuild the other kind. It's a different engine, I believe. And this one, the clutch is on the right side, and that one, the clutch is on the left side. And it's got a different setup. Now this one looks like an Iron Eagle, maybe, setup. Just getting these tight. Alright, now we got that all done. Next comes my springs. Put the springs on there. Get that all lined up. Alright. Now we got the pressure plate, or the other steel plate. Slides down over, no problem. Alright, then we got spacers. 3 little spacers that go on. They go right here. Tight. It's a little looser on that stud. On there. On there. Alright, now we got this. Alright. The pulley goes out. Take these. See how they flip like that. Alright, so they need to be like this when you put it on there. Line up the 3 holes, the 3 studs, get it even. Make sure all 3 of these are positioned correctly. Press this moves easily. And then we're gonna lock washers and the 3 nuts. There we go. And then the clutch is assembled. Now we're going to pack them bearings with some grease. 2 sets of needle bearings in here, set of ball bearings in there. Pack them with grease, and then we're going to stick them on. Alright, we got the clutch all put back in. We got the carburetor clean, full of fuel. It's been test ridden a few times. So let's see what she does. Fuel's on, key's on.